welcome back to part 11 of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, where today we're finally properly breaking into Sector 5 to catch up with Biggs, let him know why Jesse and Wedge are off the team and why Cloud and Tifa are instead, and execute the next stage of our plan in blowing up the next Marker Reactor, our second one, and it's Marker Reactor 5. I know, quite a jump, but if we went straight from 1 to 2, it would be a bit obvious. So this is more of an effort to just keep Shinra guessing as they try and work it out. Even though, as I've mentioned before, if this plan kept on going, it would be harder and harder to stay hidden from it because it's going to become more and more obvious with there being less options where they're going to go. Like, there's only 7 reactors to choose from. After this one, there's only going to be 6. You know? Like, the realm of taking a guess to find them gets smaller and smaller each time. Assuming we haven't been found already. But I digress. During this video, you'll probably hear my cat at some point. She's in the room with me, just kind of chilling and purring and snoring away. She was in a bit of a mood this morning because it's raining a lot outside, and she seemed to settle when I let her in, so here she is for now. Well, she's cleaning right now. I'm not going to disturb her. At some point during the video, you'll probably hear her try and climb onto me and start purring away like she tends to do. It's Socks. I've got 2 cats. I've got Socks and Sugar. Socks is more of a lazy house cat, while Shugs is a bit more of an adventurer. But this encounter, I've seen a lot of people actually game over in this fight. It's quite funny actually, because these sentry launchers are as dangerous as they were in the last chapter. You know, the one that like killed one of my characters kind of quick when we first encountered them. But yeah, there's 2 in this room. There's 2 higher up turrets that are shooting little lasers, and there's further out turrets that are straight up off the arena, so only magic and Barret are going to reach them. You can't jump up to them or anything like that, which are just permanently gunning. And so your health's never not going to be trickling down during this particular encounter, because there's 3 different types of ranged enemy shooting. One that's just scatter-shotting, this one on the end, the laser from the top, and like the main damage dealer in the front. It's a good tag team, to be fair, on the enemy's part, of maintaining damage and making you have to think on your feet. Because no matter what, this fight's kind of time-gated until you get on top of things, because the longer you take, the lower everyone's health's getting by default. Because see, we're getting chipped to pieces here. Barrett's on low health really quickly, and it's on the verge of death. But if I try and hide behind this, well, he's just getting chipped at from another direction. So I shift character, because a general rule of thumb throughout the Final Fantasy VII Remake is that although not all the time, a general rule is that the enemies will always target who you're controlling primarily. They will deter and attack your teammates every now and then, but it's like 70% of the time their focus is on whoever you're in control of. So you can use that in your advantage. If someone's on low health, swap to someone else so the enemy's focus shifts. So you can give them more of a chance, you know, get them out of there and get them into safety and get their health back up. Which is what I did there with Barret. When I got Barret to heal, I swapped off of him, so then the enemies would target Cloud and Tifa and leave him alone. But after getting messed up, we're nearly there. For the record, this is like the last fight of this chapter, so don't stress too much about getting your head ripped off. Like, if you can survive it, you're pretty much done for this chapter, because we're approaching a cutscene that will transition into the next proper chapter. Which is why I kind of just move on. Actually, I think I heal up a little bit, just in case there's another fight I don't remember. But as a rule, we are like nigh on there, so we're about to get our free restore. Because this chapter doesn't have a boss fight at all. We just travel through here, get a decent idea of what to expect from free-player combat. And then after that, the next chapter is kind of the test to see what you've learned, because they rack up the difficulty a bit more. Have a boss fight at the end of it, and in general just test you a bit more aggressively to see that if you've mastered the free player combat. Which, speaking of combat, there's other stuff that I can talk about. I know we're about to approach a cutscene, so I'll talk about it more in a bit. But I uploaded me getting the collector's edition of the Neptunia Senran and Kagura crossover game. And so far, I didn't get to play too much of it, but it's pretty fun. I'm worried it's going to have the same problem Cyber had, or Cyber Dimension Neptunia had, where that game's biggest drawback is that it repeated a lot of aspects over and over again to pad out the game length on what was already one of the shortest Neptunia games out there. Like, you can clear it in like an afternoon. It's tiny.
Mercy! Wait, Cloud. Where's Jesse and Wedge?
Report.
Topside's going nuts after some terrorists jumped off a train. Nice and quiet here, though. So quiet I had no trouble securing your route into the reactor.
You magnificent son of a bitch! Bring it in!
So, where are the others?
Man.
Jesse got hurt and couldn't make it.
Bad?
Not so bad she couldn't rope in this guy.
Thanks for stepping up.
It's a job.
Worked out pretty good. You picking that train you did. While Shinra scours Sector 4, you can waltz right on into Sector 5. It's a bit of a squeeze, but it ought to get you where you need to go.
Little dark and foreboding for my taste.
Beggars can't be choosers. Oh, and you'll be needing your grappling guns, of course. All set?
Ready to take on the world and then some.
Make sure everyone gets clear, okay?
Will do.
Okay, y'all. Keep these grappling guns close. Secure them to your belt or whatever so you don't lose them. When we're done, we'll be using these babies to get down safe. All of us.
Got it. A bit more,
Or to the
maybe.
left! The left!
Wait.
Hurry it up!
Fix those lights!
Excuse me, sir. Your tie?
Quickly now, quickly! That's it. That's the smell. This place reeks of Mako.
Looks like we made it.
Layout's the same as Reactor 1.
Yeah. We're near Mako storage.
Let's move.
Okay, so Shinra absolutely know we're here. There's no two-way about it. They're watching us and like staging everything as we go. But we got a new weapon for Barrett, so of course I'm going to equip it, even though stat-wise it's a little weaker, but we can upgrade it to try and correct some of that. The actual stat difference that weapons tend to give, I genuinely don't give a second thought until the end of the game, on any run during this. It's like, well, you're only equipping the weapon to get the skill anyway. When you're approaching the finale of the game and you've got all the weapons for all the characters and got all the skills, then it matters because, well, you've got the only reason why you'd use a different sword anyway, so you might as well go for the thing that best suits your build. But throughout the journey of the game, well, the game's built around understanding that you're gonna be changing weapons even to weaker weapons at points solely to get their skills so you can expand your arsenal and expand your options. Which is another thing that makes me kind of curious to see how the later parts will handle it. If the later parts take away these abilities from you and make you learn them again, it's going to be kind of disappointing. I'd rather you start with all of those abilities, because to jump the gun, you don't learn that many as a whole. Like, every character, I believe, gets either 5 or 6 weapons. And so that's 5 or 6 skills. That's not much in the grand scheme of it. That's not like an absolute ensemble. That's kind of contained. And so I feel like if they should very reasonably start with that and then just add more on top of it to give you more options. I do want to criticize that in this game, everyone seems to have like a standard set. And what I mean is, like, everyone gets a skill that's like a focused shot or like focused strike or focused whatever. That's what it's supposed to do, is reduce resistance to stagger and build up stagger really quickly. Everyone has a skill that's entirely built around what their speciality is. Like Cloud will get an ability later on that will auto swap his stance when you use it. So we'll automatically stop him to the aggressive stance or the operator stance when you use it. Barrett gets one specifically focused around his gunplay. Tifa gets the one that builds up her triangle attack. Like, everyone gets a skill that's focused around that. I think the only character that breaks the rule is the only character we've yet to see in gameplay. There's a character that's going to join us later on, and they are a very nice outlier because they are pretty different in how they handle things. They're very supportive instead. But for Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett, they tick the same boxes but just have aesthetical differences, it feels like, a lot of the time. Like, Clouds do tend to be more aggressive as a whole, but then Tifa is all about building up the combo, so it's also very aggressive. And Barrett, outside of like 1 or 2 of his skills, which, to be fair, the skill he's currently learning is one of his exceptions, it still follows the same formula. Like, it's 4 standard, 2 unique-ish, and that's it. And I want them to go crazy with it in the next part. I want them to genuinely just go absolutely wild and throw out really crazy shit. Make an air-based skill for Cloud and Tifa, please. Because, you know, their basic 3-hit wonders are just terrible. Give them something nice in the next part, please. I'm begging you. I know they're going for the whole try and use different options for, like, ranged enemies. But at the same time, making it so the physical attackers feel like they have no good options outside of magic just feels like it works against you. But I should really talk about Barrett's new ability. You're going to see me spam it a bunch to try and get the proficiency up, but usually you don't need to. That red icon on Barrett's health bar means that every time Cloud or Tifa get hurt, some of the damage that would be intended for them will go to Barrett instead. It's like shielding, but not directly. You're not taking the entirety of their damage. Barrett will just make it so the damage is shared onto him, so Cloud and Tifa don't get wrecked instantly. That's how the ability works. So it's good if you've got Barrett's defense or health through the roof to make up for it, but if Barrett isn't that defensive or isn't that bulky in health, you're sentencing the man to death because you'll be taking his own damage and be taking a portion of Tifa and Cloud's damage, so then they take less. Basically, if you're going to use it, make it so Barrett isn't the forefront of the fight. Because you're going to see during this, every time the others get hurt, his health just chips down just that little bit more, and his health ends up plummeting because of it. Because it's still early-ish games, people don't have major health. Because that attack hit everyone, Barrett technically got hit 3 times, which is why his health is now non-existent. Like, that's what I mean, you have to be very wary when you use it. And you're only really going to see me use it to max out its proficiency and then drop it like a rock afterwards. Because I just don't... In hard mode, it has more use. There are specific situations that can help out. But in the normal playthrough, no, you're just burdening yourself here. Just don't use it. Like, get it for the sake of getting the equipment and having the option to, but don't stress about it too much, because you're just going to end up making life harder for yourself in the long run. Because you'll kill Barrett, and then, well, what was the point of the lifesaver? He's dead anyway, and now you've only got 2 party members. But to talk about my point I was talking about earlier, about the Neptunia Ninja Wars game, I have my concerns that it will be similar to Cybernet, where it will be a lot of padding and it will still be very short. But as it stands right now, I'm enjoying the unique locations that the game has. I'm enjoying the music. The cutscenes are hit and miss. Like, some of the cutscenes are a bit It's better than Cybernet right now, at least, is what I'm getting at. And that's the thing, that I did enjoy Cybernet, but I didn't think it was a bad game at all. My biggest criticism with it is that it had like no replayability and was incredibly short. Oh, and the fact that it had that evilly long load screen when you fire up the game for no reason. Like, genuinely, I can't understand why it took so long to load at the start of it as it does. It genuinely takes like 4 minutes. It's insane. But firstly, the Senran Kagura crossover game doesn't have the load screens that are as awfully long anyway. Like, they're tiny in comparison, thankfully. And the game's fun. There's another cutscene, I'll talk about it in a sec.
Sephiroth. Soldiers. Mako. Shinra. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of all of this!
Soldier boy.
Tifa.
What?
This is going to be a little bit of a cutscene again of like, we're going to get that scene, take 10 steps forward, get another scene, take 10 steps forward, get another scene. Well, it's more like 30 steps, but you know what I mean. We're not traveling far between each cutscene coming forward, so my Senran Kagura Neptunia talk was going to have to wait. It is what it is.
How much time we need?
Got all the time in the world. This one comes with a remote detonator.
Courtesy of Jesse.
We withdraw to a safe distance. Then, kaboom!
Safe distance?
What? No such thing. We get out the same way we got in. Let's double back.
Huh?
What the? Where you going?
Weirdly perfect timing.
Wait a minute. Is someone watching us?
Greetings, my dear sewer rats. As architect of our populace engagement campaign, I, Heidegger, head of public security, bid you welcome.
The chief warmonger.
You should be flattered. Right now, you command the undivided attention of every soul in Midgard.
Huh? What is this?
Breaking news from Mako Reactor 5. Shinra has confirmed the reactor to be the target of the bomb threat issued by the terrorist group Avalanche. Members of the group were observed entering the facility, and security is currently sweeping it for explosive devices. We now go live to the scene.
I'm here in the Sector 5 Undercity. Having confirmed the terrorist target, the Shinra Emergency Operations Center has issued an evacuation advisory. Residents are outraged that the tragedy of Mako Reactor 1 was only the first attack in a campaign of violence.
President Shinra has issued a statement providing assurances that the terrorists will soon be brought to justice.
And so, to a people beset by chaos and uncertainty, we will offer the finest comfort, bread and service.
The big boy.
I give you Shinra's latest triumph of technology, the Airbuster, your executioner.
Engineering on the line. Currently, the Airbuster is only 60% operational. The estimates were optimistic.
I'm on air! To the imbecile in charge down there, you are hereby ordered to seize those intruders and bring them to me. But quietly, or there'll be trouble!
As you might be able to work out, that Airbuster is going to be our next boss. And in the original game was the second boss. And this is the fourth. It's in the same point in the story. It's just there's more on the in-between to make it later on. Which instead just kind of helps prove my point of how much more expanded and stretched out Part 1 is for what it did to Midgard. And so I love it. I love how much life they added to the game. And how much they expanded things out to just make it a much better experience. And a more, like, involving world. But now we've unfortunately got to go through a relatively repetitive stretch of the game. I've mentioned it before that the level design in this game isn't always the best, and it's the same level design problem that's been around since literally the dawn of the PS2 for Square Enix titles. Where they're sort of linear, non-linear, might set up a gimmick that it becomes very obvious and integral to the lining, but as a whole can be rather corridory at points. It's why I appreciate 15 so much for trying to break from the mold so heavily. And it did it, in my opinion, really well. It wasn't perfect, but it did it well enough. But it is like, this chapter is the definition of corridor simulator. You'll see what we mean more so in the next video. because I'm trying to make more of an effort to keep these videos at a more tame length again. At least for now. I'm sure they'll creep up again later on, but at least for now I'll try to make them more tame. So we'll see more of it as it goes in the next video. But as a whole, this is very much, we're going to go into a room, go through a corridor, go into a room, go into a corridor, and it's going to be rinse and repeat for like 6 rooms in a row. Because that's tied to the gimmick of this floor, of this chapter. But to actually, wrap up my Senran Kagura talk before the video ends and I never actually got around to it, the game's combat is actually pretty fun. It's kind of clunky in places, and the default control scheme is hideous. I'm so glad that it allows free mapping of the controls, so you can remap anything to anything else. Because the default controls aren't nice. Like, it starts off kind of standard, but see if you can start noticing, like, some of the oddities with this. Square is attack, triangle is alternate attack, or ranged attack. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. Circle is guard, okay, so we're all guarding this bitch, like it's Devil May Cry. X is jump, yeah, okay, it all sounds pretty standard right now. R1 I don't know what does yet, because I haven't got far enough to find out what it does. L1 is bring up like your quick action menu, like your shortcut menu, same as in this. R2 is dodge. L2 is lock on. Up brings up on the D-pad, brings up your items. Left and right change target on lock on. And down swaps to your partner, because it's 2-player combat basically. You have 2 characters you're in control of, and you tap down the swap between them. And it's like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, they ran out of space here. Right stick, pressing it in, resets the camera behind you. That's kind of standard. You have to also hold down the dodge button to dash and sprint. So you have to hold down R2 to sprint.
Good job.
Which the last game I remember having to do that was like the Arkham games, I think. But it was just, it's awkward to me, so I remapped a few things. Like, dodge is now comfortably sitting on circle, which means I have to hold down circle to dash, but that doesn't bother me. Guards on R1, lock on is L1, the ability, like the quick ability list is on L2, and then R2, because I don't know what it does yet, I've just left as R2. But then the game is like, oh, there's also a special skill that characters can do, like their ultimate when you build up enough meter. And it's like, oh, okay, press both attack and guard at the same time to execute it. So it's like, I have to press triangle and R1 now. That's why they put guard on circle, so then you can just press both of them with your thumb. But it feels like it's slightly cluttered with too much stuff. And I said, I'm not too fussed about that in the grand scheme. The fact that you can remap everything is appreciated. But it doesn't feel like as much thought as I personally feel like should have gone into it should have been. Like, I feel like the default should have been different from what it is. But that's genuinely the only real gripe I have. Like, I'm enjoying the gameplay, I'm enjoying what you can do with it, and as it stands, the music's nice as well. It feels like they have learned a lot from Cybernet, which is a good thing, because like I said, I liked Cybernet, it just had a lot of problems. But I'm going to wrap this up right now, so next time on the VII Remake, we're going to continue trying to weaken the Airbuster before we fight it. But until then, you guys take care now. Peace.